One of the weirder things I've seen in the gaming community is the whole Nuzlocke challenge stuff. Now, you might be wondering, what is this Pokemon Nuzlocke challenge? Well, first, let me get down to why this whole thing exists. I think by now we should already know that Pokemon games are extremely easy cakewalks. I mean, you don't even need any skill in any role-playing game or any sort of video game to beat a Pokemon game. You don't even need to read a single line of text or understand what you're reading to beat the game, considering how I've beaten several Pokemon games in Japanese without knowing a single word or character of Japanese. Not only that, but the game barely punishes you if you die in the game. I mean blacked out or whited out depending on generation. Other role-playing game series will usually give you something such as a game over screen, while other series have permadeath, or you can die so many times but then you won't be able to be revived unless you buy another heart item like in the original Final Fantasy Legend. But I'm just using some examples here, because many other role-playing games punish you far harder than Pokemon does when your characters die. Not only that, but you also have to pay money in many role-playing games to heal your character up in, like, let's just say an inn, while Pokemon centers are free. And when your whole team faints, and keep in mind they call it fainting because they wanted to have this franchise have a wide appeal, you instantly end up at the last Pokemon Center you were in. Keep in mind, you can also save anywhere, so unlike games such as Final Fantasy, Chrono, or the Megami Tensei series, you don't have save points. Instead, you can save anywhere on the map. And let's not forget that with the advent of stuff such as GTS, or with the whole trading thing, if you had a friend back before Generation 4, you could have a friend trade you a more powerful Pokemon, like a level 100, and you could clear the game easier this way. And even though you have the whole gym badge thing trying to artificially stop progress and also trying to keep you from doing that with using an overpowered Pokemon, it doesn't work too well and it can still help you clear the game easier. And let's not forget how the whole stat gains with your Pokemon are hidden, and you cannot control them unless you EV train, IV train, and that stuff, which was unintended by the developers until maybe Gen 6. But unlike other role-playing games, or even the whole genre where all these role-playing games were based off of, pen and paper role-playing games, you can't customize stats like you can in other games with Pokemon. I mean, even with the Shin Megami Tensei series having demon leveling up working different from your main character leveling up, it still has some things that allow you to change the outcome of your party, such as demon fusion and stuff. All Pokemon has is breeding, and unless you're a nerd who goes on Bulbapedia and looks up all these hidden stats, you're not going to get too much out of it. While Demon Fusion, on the other hand, allows you to fuse demons and have a better party. But enough with that. I think I've already spent 3 minutes getting the point out that Pokemon is a pretty casualized game. So what do fans of it do to try to make the game seem harder? They try to add fake difficulty with fan-made challenges such as the Nuzlocke challenge. Now let me tell you what the Nuzlocke challenge is. The Nuzlocke rules, well, the basic ones go like this. Any Pokemon that faints is pretty much dead and has to be released. You know, trying to emulate how other role-playing games treat character deaths, even though in many of them you do get options to revive. The player may only catch the first Pokemon encountered in each area and none other. If the Pokemon faints, there's no second chances. If the first encounter is a double battle, they have to choose which Pokemon they want to catch. Because, that totally makes recruiting them harder like it is in the Shin Megami Tensei series, am I right? Now, this next rule is proudly brought to you by the Linkin Park album Hybrid Theory, so here it goes. While not exactly a definite rule, the general consensus is that players must nickname all their Pokemon for the sake of forming stronger emotional bonds. So when your Pokemon dies, you can feel like you've tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. And of course, another rule that's implied is that you can only use Pokemon you've catched, and not Pokemon that, say, you traded. Because even though trading is one of the main things that sets Pokemon apart from other role-playing game franchises, keep in mind, you're not allowed to trade in this Super MLG hard mode gameplay style. And also implied is a prohibition against voluntarily resetting and reloading the game when something goes wrong, even though by now LR start select or AB start select, depending on the generation, is burnt into every Pokemon player's mind. And there's also a bunch of optional rules too, from not catching and using legendary Pokemon, to not using Master Balls, to limiting the amount of Pokeballs per purchase at the Pokemart. Now keep in mind, none of these actually solve the core problem with the Pokemon games. I mean, first off, they're entirely player enforced, and they're not like, let's just say, Halo 3 Skulls, which actually affect the gameplay and not just are some dumb rule that somebody set on Xbox. Like, remember how the whole Halo 2 Zombies thing went, where everybody would have to voluntarily change teams, but like nobody actually did that, and so it ended up in tons of rage. And plus, Halo 3 Skulls are much more satisfying to complete than Nuzlocke or any of that stuff, but that's another story. But to really make Pokemon harder, not only would they have to add like an official hard mode, but they'd also have to, like, let's just say, for example, change how the game works, like the game mechanics. Because right now, as of how it's currently set up, Pokemon is a pretty easy game to give to your little kid so he can have fun for a few minutes on a trip. And the thing with Pokemon is, it's not designed to be a hard game. They would have to change a lot of how the game works, from the battle system, to how much money you get, to where you can save at, to the whole balance of the game, so it's more based off skill and not just luck. Because keep in mind, Nuzlocks are just you trying to play the game a certain way on purpose, a way that with anybody else would get you videos made on you called "This is how you don't play insert game here." But keep in mind, you can actually find a lot more role-playing game series out there. I mean, there are tons of them that require more skill, more character customization being required, because after all, the character stats do actually affect the gameplay more than it does in Pokemon. And did I mention that with these other role-playing game series, you'll also get more bonuses such as better storylines, more fun gameplay, more satisfying gameplay, and of course graphics that don't look like, well, like you're taking sandpaper and putting it against your eyes. Yeah, that's what Pokemon Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and X and Y look like. And despite the role-playing game genre seeming dead, especially if you've only played Japanese role-playing games, there have been a ton of Western role-playing games coming out this year. I mean, last year, Dragon Age Inquisition came out, Wasteland 2 came out, I think the expansion to Shadowrun Returns came out, and of course, what also came out was Divinity. And if the only role-playing games you play are ones published by Nintendo, or ones that have Pokemon in them, you're missing out on a lot. I mean, sure, many of the better role-playing games that have come out, even ones this year, don't have your favorite waifu in them, but at least they're good games. And you know what? I take a good game over a game having waifu material any day. And if Pokemon is the only role-playing game you ever play, then you're missing out on a ton of games which actually have difficulty and which actually require skill and which are polished and which are well made with good storylines. I mean, if you only play Pokemon, you're missing out on a ton of good role-playing games. And that's all that has to be said. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more.